Bonjour à ceux qui n'étaient pas là ce matin. C'est donc la troisième conférence de la journée, donc avec Calin et Kruse. Ce sont deux éditeurs de livres photographiques de très très grande qualité que vous pouvez voir derrière la régie. La maison d'édition, c'est Dienacht. C'est une maison très très prolifique. Dienacht, c'est à la fois un magazine et une maison d'édition. Comment est née cette envie de créer à la fois un magazine et à la fois une maison d'édition? En général, c'est deux choses différentes. C'est un travail différent, une manière de réfléchir différente.
Well, I'm going to explain a bit during the presentation, but I started with the magazine when I was still studying. I was studying graphic design, and afterwards it just developed kind of normally into publishing also photo books.
So there was no plan to make a publishing house. Calin started a magazine and this just developed naturally.
Dans votre travail, il y a toute une réflexion que vous menez sur la photographie, et notamment des questions sur des questions sociales, des questions politiques, des questions sur le corps et sur la sexualité. C'est vraiment ce qui peut définir Dienacht.
Yeah, I think what we try to show is more like personal stories and things that are there but are kind of hidden. So they are not on the surface. And I think this is what we are interested in, things which are not obvious to everyone at first sight.
Depuis combien de temps Dienacht existe?
I think the magazine exists since 2007, I think, and the publishing house since 2012.
Et votre diffusion est internationale?
Yes, we don't have a classical distribution, but we go on fairs and we also have international bookstores who sell our books. So Jana joined 3 or 4 years ago, that's why I'm going to talk about how I started from the beginning, publishing the magazine, also the first photo books. So when I started to publish or to bind things together, this was my first magazine. It was a homework in French in my second grade when I was 8 years old. When I started studying, so I started graphic design. I started to make a small zine, small magazine, but it's completely analog, so completely without computer and photocopied and handbound and so on. I did 4 copies for 4 different issues of the magazine. I tried to just put my thoughts on paper, basically, without any deeper meaning. And then everything turned into a photo magazine, which is called dienacht, which means the night. And this was the first issue of the magazine. It was published around, 15 years, I think, until 2017. And we still want to continue doing it. In first edition was only in German, and then afterwards it was in German and English. These are some special issues of the magazine. Apart from the regular issues, we did some special issues of Polish photography, Nigerian photography, and photography from different photo schools. And this is the last issue, which was published, I think, 2017. So I'm going to show now some pictures from the magazine, just to give you an impression of what it is about, and talk about the magazine a little bit before going to photo books. So it's not only about, photography is the main topic in the magazine, but I also showed illustration and sculptures and all kind of everything it has to do with art in general. It was published 2 times a year, so it was a biannual magazine, and I tried to show as much variety as possible also in terms of photography, so to show different genres and to show different portfolios or a certain series, but which are not related to a certain time, or older pictures and newer pictures, and I tried to find timeless photography. So there were also very well-known photographers in the magazine, but also photography students or artists. So it didn't really matter if they are well-known or not. It just needed to be somehow appealing to me since I was doing the magazine. And there were no certain topics. I just tried to show variety through every issue of the magazine. So to show portraits and photojournalism and landscapes and nudity and illustration or art in general. Then it just happened 2012 that we started Dienacht Publishing. This was the first book we published with a Danish photographer who went to Sierra Leone and lived there with the people in the slums. The thing is that it's not photojournalism. He lived there with the people in the slums and he's photographing what he was personally interested in without wanting to say this and this is how it looks like there. So it's a very personal approach to photography. Basically also what I'm interested in general, this personal approach or this kind of personal photography, things to show what's there but what's not very obvious. And also while I was publishing the first photo books, I was still studying, so I was still a student. This was the second book, which also was one of the biggest projects until now. It's a collective of 6 different photographers, and it was clear very fast from the beginning that it cannot be just one book showing all photographers, but there need to be 6 different books. So since every photographer has a different approach or a different language, like photographic language, it was also quite clear that we also need to experiment with different papers, different bindings, different designs. So every photographer has an own, like it's not just a catalog, but every photographer has an own book. For example, we also have this poster which folds out of the book as one book. All books are in a box, in a slipcase. You see here on the picture, on the right picture on the bottom, that the Nocturne, so the title is actually glowing in the dark, so it's a phosphorescent. This is a very small edition. It's only 40 copies, so we make editions between, 1,500 and the other way around, between 10 and 1,500 copies. So we have also very small handmade editions, like this one, for example, is a box handmade by the photographer. So it's basically loose pictures, so there are different small series of pictures, and some of the series are made with a large format camera, and some of them are with a Polaroid camera. When I published it, many people said actually it's not a book because here there's no binding, but I think the concept is what makes it into a book.
This is the book that I'm going to talk about. It's a book by a Russian photographer, and it's called Inner Mongolia. And the photographer took these pictures actually in Mongolia. But it's not only about the Mongolian landscape, but also about the state of mind, of loneliness. And you see actually 2 different editions in the picture. So left-hand book is the first edition, which is printed on gray, dusty paper. And the second edition, which was also printed in just 100 copies, is on a beige paper. Yeah, so this is what makes difference between these 2 editions. I think it's also a very kind of nice but refreshing way to publish another edition, but change it in a way. And this actually works for this very gray, dusty pictures. And all the pictures are printed directly on this gray or beige or sandy paper, which makes pictures basically disappear in the paper, so you don't get any white color. All the white turns into gray or beige. So it really resembles these Mongolian landscapes which are made of dust or sand. So this is how we try to transfer this space and feeling into book with this paper and printing technique. This is another book that I think maybe is one of the most famous dienacht publishing book. It's a book by a very famous Chinese photographer, Ren Hang, who passed away, I think, 5-6 years ago. This book was made for his biggest exhibition in Vienna. So it's kind of basically a catalog of the exhibition. This book is conceived as actually a selection of posters. So there is no binding inside, no stitching. What holds the book together is this black banderole around. Otherwise, when you open the book, you are confronted directly by the images, which can turn each into a separate poster. And as you can see, the idea was that actually most of his pictures are very centered, and it turned out that they merge with each other in a very specific and precise way. So halves of pictures merge with each other and create another third picture when you open the book. This is how this book, I think, became very impressive, because it helps to recontextualize his work, the pictures that you know. It's hard maybe to visualize, but it's actually a huge book like this. So like A3 format, so it's his biggest book, yeah, and so it looks very impressive. It's like you have a gallery or an exhibition of Ren Hang pictures at home. And just a few words about Ren Hang, if you don't know him. He was an amazing star of Chinese photography, of young Chinese photography, and he committed suicide in Berlin 6 years ago, I guess. And now, if you follow photography, you can see a lot of pictures similar to Ren Hang, but he was the first, and his photography was basically about taking pictures of his friends, fooling around, having fun. Yeah, and he just loved, really enjoyed making pictures. This is another book by a Polish photographer, and the book is called Anokhina. It is the name of a female fighter, and the book is actually about a Berlin-based female fight club. So it's a very underground club, and the photographer had access to this community, and the decision was to print all the pictures, all the book on the paper which resembles the skin color, because there is a lot of skin and a lot of body in the pictures. another way to highlight that it's about fighting. It's pretty common when you print pictures, you make this kind of stamping or bump, so to give some volume, and then print picture. But if you don't print a picture on this place, it turns that it is just a bump, which resembles like the fighting. And there is also a rubber band that you see on the right. So when you close the book, the rubber band goes around, which also shows this kind of hugging or wrestling movement. This was a very small publication and something that Calin, I think, didn't expect to become a big thing, but it was shortlisted for Paris Photo Aperture Photo Book Award. This is the book by the Ukrainian photographic group, which is called Shilo, and the book is called Chronicle, and it's like personal project, but actually about the revolution in Ukraine in 2013-2014. You are looking at the cover now, and I will explain how it's made. So it is laser cut, and when you cut something with laser, it creates heat. And if you cut very fast, you have no traces, no fire around. You just cut, basically. But if you cut very slowly, you get the traces of fire around. And this is what we wanted to keep, because this shows the traces of conflict, and the book is about conflict. And when you just unwrap the book from the plastic foil, you can also smell it a bit. And book consists of 3 parts, and each part has its own paper. This is the first part, and it deals actually with photography that was taken before the revolution in Kharkiv, where all these guys come from. And Kharkiv has a very famous, very special school of photography. Maybe you can see that, so they use old Soviet paper, expired paper, and they also use old cameras and old films. So the pictures that you see in the book, these are scans of the photographs with a lot of chemicals, because they experiment a lot in the lab. The second part is actually the revolution, the Euromaidan, and the pictures here are full spread without any borders, and if there is no picture, the picture is printed black. So we want to create the feeling of, I don't know, as if you're watching TV news and all you have is screen in front of you, and they are really confronted by what's going on there now. And the third part is after the revolution in Lugansk and Donetsk area, and the paper is actually has particles of something else, of dust, or as if there was an explosion and you have all this dust or trash around. And this is a very ironic project by a Latvian photographer. It's called Useful Advice for Photographers.
Par Ivars Gravlejs.
Gravlejs, yeah, he's Latvian. And this was actually his diploma paper in his school or university, and he basically showed what is right and what is wrong in photography. So on the left you see the way what is wrong to photograph, and on the right what is right to photograph. So just to give an example, so this is photograph clouds when there are clouds, so this is wrong, this is right. Yeah, if you look at this pair, photograph clouds when there are clouds. My favorite is here. It's how to photograph sausages in the best way. So this is quite boring, and this is the diagonal composition. One sausage is cut, so this is very spectacular. This is how you should photograph sausages. Yeah, so we also make ironic and light projects as well. And just to get back to the cover, it is supposed to be worn around the neck. So every time you're not sure how to photograph, you can take the book and check if that's wrong or right.
So I'm also taking pictures, so I'm kind of a photographer. So this is one of my books. And as I said at the beginning, we also publish very small editions. So this is an edition of 20 copies, which is completely handmade. The first part is printed on a metallic paper. And the second part is there are these original pictures, which are cut out and glued inside the book. And you also have, at the end of the book, this piece of dried grass, which also resembles, or it's shown in some of the pictures and some of the photographs. So it's kind of reminder. One of my books, it's called Kammer, which is a chamber, reminding of Chamber of Curiosities. It's also handmade, so the binding is handmade with a piece of wire. The inspiration for that was when I saw postcards, like illustrations printed with gold on black paper. I thought actually it would be somehow fun to choose really weird pictures from my archives and to print it in this very kind of posh way, so it's like gold. So it's also a very small edition of 100 copies, and you see here on the side there's a kind of hidden print in the cover. You don't really see it, but yeah, you need to look for it.
So I joined dienacht 3.5 years ago, and this was the first book that we made together with Calin. This is the book by an Indonesian photographer who photographed people in Indonesia who created motorcycles out of Vespa engines. So the only requirement for this society is that you need to have a Vespa engine inside. Otherwise, you can build your motorcycle out of anything. It can be metal, tires, skulls, trees, wheels, anything. But inside has to be Vespa engine. It's a really vibrant and huge community only in Indonesia, but it is absolutely not seen or not known here. That's why it also corresponds to our idea to find something hidden, unknown, and to turn it into a photo book. At the end of the book, you see that there is such a pocket, and inside is a newspaper or a supplement which features the same pictures but in a different design, and also telling stories about the people and the vehicles and these Vespas. Initially, actually, we decided to make this newspaper because the photographer said, I would like this book to be accessible to these guys from the community. Apparently, they won't be able to buy this hardcover book. So he wanted to create something very easy and cheap. And we decided to print this newspaper and distribute it for free in Indonesia. But here you can also buy it. In Europe, it's also part of the book. So if you buy the book, you get the book and the newspaper and also stickers from the community. This is one of the last books that we made by a Belgian photographer, and she photographed her girlfriend for 4 and 5 years in a very obsessive way. So when you open the book, you have this folds out that turns into a poster of a big portrait of her girlfriend, and then you will see her girlfriend on every page of the book. And it's a very personal story of relationship, and we wanted to keep it also very personal in a diary way, and that's why we included the notes that Paola, girlfriend, wrote to the photographer. So these notes on different tissues or stickers or post-its are inside the book. So I guess people can relate to it because we somehow all do it or did it. Something creates a very personal and touching feelings from the book. Yes, and the last book that we're going to present is really the last book that we made. It was made during our Calin's workshop. Yeah, I didn't join back then in Mexico City 4 years or 5 years ago. But it was very expensive to produce, and so we couldn't really publish it, but we got some grant last year, that's why we could make it. This is a story of 3 female generations of one family, so it's mother, daughter, and grandmother. That's why it's called The Three Corners of the Ocean. And the book consists of 2 parts. So you can see on the left hand there is the book which is wrapped in a yellow foil, and on the right is a book with a different binding which kind of has a dark red cover. And the idea was to create the feeling that people usually get from somebody else's family. That left-hand book is about how we perceive somebody's family. We think everything is nice, troubleless, quiet, though some pictures are melancholic, but you don't see any troubles. So, and the second book on the right actually shows the same pictures that are on the left, plus many more pictures, and also in different formats, and helps to create another context for this family. And then you understand that there are disagreements, and there are troubles, and there are wounds, and there are also lists of wounds that they write to each other, mother and daughter.
Also just going to say a few words about what else we are doing, because we are publishing, we are also being on fairs, but we are also doing photo book workshops. We just did a photo book workshop now in Metz for 4 days, and then at the end of the workshop people made a dummy, like a printed dummy. Yeah, I'm also mentoring photographers, so I'm doing online mentorings for photographers, and since also Jana has a curatorial background in photography, and I'm also curating photo book or photo exhibitions. Thank you very much.
Merci.
And if you have any questions, let us know.
La photographie est arrivée quand, à titre personnel? Avant le design, avant le graphisme ou après?
I started to be interested in photography while I was studying. So I started to study graphic design, and then I started to discover photography.
La deuxième question, est-ce que c'est pas difficile de s'éditer soi-même quand on fait la photographie, quand on est éditeur? Est-ce qu'on a le recul nécessaire pour s'éditer soi-même?
It's not difficult with my own pictures, because if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. Or if I can't do it, I don't do it. So I just leave it aside. But with other pictures, with other people's pictures, it's a bit more challenging. But yeah, we always find a way to do it.
Est-ce que vous avez des questions dans la salle?
Je voulais savoir comment est-ce qu'on définit un public par rapport aux publications que vous décidez de mettre en œuvre. Ou est-ce que vous pensez à ça ou pas du tout? Donc est-ce que vous ciblez un public en particulier par rapport aux livres que vous faites ou pas du tout? Vous êtes totalement dans l'optique artistique créative.
Well, I actually don't really think about the public, so I publish what we like in the end. But of course, you need to think that you also need to sell these books. So that's why we also have small print runs, because we think they might not be suitable for everyone, or they might be too expensive for some people.
I also think that Calin started so long ago, and so somehow he gathered around him already a community that likes what he likes, and it's a more intuitive feeling as this taste for certain photography or for certain approach. That's why I think now kind of we have the public because he gathered it around. I think we definitely publish only what we like, and in many cases we're not really about rationalizing things, but like being really intuitive. But we really consider the public in the sense that the project, the book has to be accessible, yeah, so it shouldn't be a closed box which no one else can understand. We want the project to stay kind of open for the public.
Yeah, we also publish bigger print runs, which means like, I don't know, 1,000 or 1,500 copies, because we might think, okay, this type of books might reach more people, or more people would be interested in this type of books. So it's a mix between just really small handmade editions and bigger print runs. I mean, for us, bigger. But I think in the end we don't rationalize it too much, so it's just having fun and hope that someone will buy our books.
Yeah, and this is not a very good economic strategy, of course.
D'autres questions peut-être? Bon, alors on en reste là et on les remercie.
Merci.
Et on vous invite à aller juste en face, de l'autre côté, voir leur production, quelques exemples de leur production. Merci à vous.